That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat beside the sea. Such great crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat there, while the whole crowd stood on the beach. And he told them many things in parables, saying, "Listen, a sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seeds fell on the path, and the birds came and ate them up. Other seeds fell on rocky ground, where they did not have much soil, and they sprang up quickly, since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and brought forth grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. Let anyone with ears listen. Hear then the parable of the sower. When anyone hears the word of the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what is sown in the heart, that is, what was sown on the path. As for what was sown on rocky ground, this is the one who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. Yet such a person has no root, but endures only for a while. And when trouble or persecution arises on account of the word, that person immediately falls away. As for what was sown among thorns, this is the one who hears the word, but the cares of the world and the lure of wealth choke the word, and it yields nothing. But as for what was grown on good soil, this is the one who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit and yields, in one case 100-fold, in another 60, in another 30. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
Is anyone here a fan of those Sudoku puzzles? A few? Okay, yeah, all right. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, those are these puzzles with like those 9 big squares, and each of those squares has 9 little boxes in them, and the point is to fill them all in with numbers, 1 through 9. They range from easy, where most of the numbers are already filled in, to very difficult, where there's hardly any numbers already there. I enjoy doing them, like a lot of you, but I only like the easy ones. All right? I get to a point in some of those puzzles, especially the difficult ones, where it seems like the only way you can move forward is just pick a number and hope it turns out. I mean, any number in that space, 1 through 9, if there's a 1 in 9 chance you might get it right. And if it doesn't work out, you got to go back and erase it all, I guess. I mean, this is the only way I think this would be solved, is to just guess and fill it in and see what happens. Am I wrong? I might be wrong. If you know a better way, I'd love to hear it. But I think the same process that I'm using can be true when it comes to many of us in the way that we hear and understand parables. I bet you didn't see that coming. As we know, Jesus likes his parables a lot. Probably almost as much as I like my metaphors. Jesus uses them to teach the crowds that are following him. He uses them to teach the disciples who he's gathered close to him. He uses parables to show all of us what this indescribable kingdom kind of might look like. Think of it this way, he might say. Or, so you're not really getting this, maybe think of this. Most of the time, we end up like the crowds who simply hear the parable from Jesus and then have to figure out all the meanings on our own. Sometimes, though, we get lucky and we overhear Jesus explaining these parables to his disciples, like we did this morning. So it's a little clearer about what he means in these stories. But even then, there's a lot of guessing still as a part of the way that he teaches. And that's where we come in with all of our guessing and our attempts to fill in the blank of who or what Jesus means in all of these parables. Is he talking about us, or is he talking about those people? Is this a reflection of good or evil? Is he being critical or is he being loving? Or both? There's a lot of guessing when it comes to Jesus' parables, and I know we all do it. I've heard us do it. But unlike Sudoku, where in the end there's only one correct solution to fill up that whole puzzle, with Jesus' words, it feels like he says them in such a way that there's bigger meaning and more than one meaning to his teaching. And so in this parable, there's a number of different variables, a number of empty boxes. And even after Jesus explains it, I think there's two variables that are worth mentioning this morning. And I think they're both about the sower of the seeds. The first thought is what we think about this sower who's tossing these seeds literally everywhere. On good soil, but also on rocky soil and thorny soil and plain old hard soil. I mean, wouldn't anyone who has even a clue about how plants work not just carelessly throw seeds all about? Because they know it won't root there. Is this plain carelessness and wastefulness, or is it, I don't know, generosity and abundance? I do know that a pack of seeds that we use in our vegetable or flower garden doesn't cost a lot of money, especially if you get a lot of yield from it, and especially if it's just a hobby. I don't know the cost of seeds for row crops these days and whether it'd be a waste just to go throwing it everywhere and hoping that something comes up. I don't know. But I do know that to the crowds who were hearing this parable firsthand, seed was not cheap. It was very expensive. They for sure had to be absolutely careful where these seeds were planted because for them it was life or death. So what were they thinking about this sower who just threw it? The second question requires a bit of digging. And this is the question of who is the sower that Jesus is talking about? And so in my attempt to fill in the box with whoever I can guess might fit in there, I wanted to think about 4 different people whom the sower could be and to see what the parable lends to us in those cases. The first one would be if the sower is Jesus himself, if he's talking about himself. He's spreading the word of God throughout the land as if it were seed through his teaching and preaching and healing among the crowds where he's traveling. His actions are the seeds that are tossed here and there. And when the crowd sees that or hears that, they probably think Jesus is being wasteful. Why would you even bother healing that person? Why would you waste your time having dinner with those kinds of people? Why would you travel all the way to that town? Those people would never listen to what you had to say, Jesus. I'm sure Jesus knew what kind of soil that was receiving his actions, but it didn't stop him from sharing it everywhere that he could. But maybe still this parable was a critique of the crowds who were hearing it. Those who thought their hearts were good soil may have hearts as hard as the daily paths we walk. A second option could be that Jesus was describing those disciples that were following him as the sowers. Remember what we've been hearing just a couple of chapters back in Matthew and what we've been hearing these past few weeks. Jesus is equipping these disciples to be sent, to spread God's word. And they were warned, as we heard, that they might be persecuted or not well received, and they may get kicked out. But they've been called to proclaim the message of the kingdom even in the midst of all that. They are to cast seeds everywhere in the hopes that some or as many as possible of those seeds can take root when they do find good soil. A third idea could be to consider if Jesus was talking about us as the sower in the parable. It's pretty similar to how the disciples did and how they sowed, but it could be a reminder to us to not be so stingy with our proclamation of how we share and the actions that we do for one another. I think we often place ourselves in the role of God and judge for ourselves who or what can be considered good soil, and labeling what we think is bad soil. Maybe that's not our role. Surprise. I mean, I don't care if you have the greenest thumb in the world when it comes to growing things from seedlings, we don't always get it right. We might think that what's in front of us is the richest, deepest, most fertile soil there could be, but when we plant our seeds, the only thing that comes out is that darn starflower. Not that I speak from experience here or anything, but... Or there could be a plot of land where it seems like nothing could ever bear fruit, and yet grows this luxurious garden from completely volunteer seeds. We usually just don't know what's going on. But maybe it's a reminder for us to consider what kind of shape that our soil is in. Are we in the kind of shape where seeds from the Word of God can grow deep and strong roots? Or is our soil so shallow that everything is uprooted when our first crisis hits? I mean, with the amount of weeding that I just did this past weekend in our garden at home, I know that our gardens need tending. We have to give them attention. The fourth and last option that I was wrestling with, and one that's pretty popular with most people, I think, is that Jesus was talking about God as the sower of the seeds. When it comes to spreading God's word, God's hope, God's love, God spreads it with reckless abandon. It's shared in all places, over all things, over all people. God's not holding back any of those resources, afraid that they might be wasted or they'll cost too much. No, it's everywhere. There's no end to the generosity of God's love. There's no end to the generosity of God's hope. We will never know what can sprout from what is planted. So will you go and plant seeds and see what grows? Amen.